What if the strangest place on Earth isn't haunted? It's something far more advanced than we're ready to understand.
For over a century, a stretch of land in the Uinta Basin of Utah has resisted every explanation science has thrown at it. Ranchers vanished. Cattle were found without a single drop of blood. Lights moved with intelligence, not randomness. And now, after decades of silence, cover-ups, and half-answers, something has surfaced from beneath that land that researchers are calling the discovery that rewrites the file. If the truth about Skinwalker Ranch came out tomorrow, would you actually want to know? Drop your age and city in the comments. Let's see who's brave enough to say they'd want the truth, no matter what it costs. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear isn't folklore. It's documented, and it's only getting stranger from here. Let's rewind, all the way back, because the story doesn't start in the 1990s. It starts generations earlier. Long before anyone put a fence around this land. Skinwalker Ranch, 512 acres of high desert scrubland in northeastern Utah, has carried a reputation for over 200 years. Long before satellites tracked it, before scientists studied it, before television crews descended on it, the Ute and Navajo peoples who lived near this land refused to set foot on it after dark. They gave it a name that translates roughly to Skinwalker, a shape-shifting entity said to move between forms, between worlds, between what's real and what shouldn't be. Oral histories describe the basin as a crossing point, a place where boundaries between this world and something else were thinner than anywhere else on the continent. Elders warned children never to camp there overnight. Hunters spoke of animals that behaved wrong, deer that stood and stared instead of fleeing, wolves that seemed to vanish mid-stride. These weren't campfire exaggerations passed down for entertainment. They were warnings, repeated with the same seriousness generation after generation. Most outsiders wrote it off as legend, a scary story passed down to keep children close to camp. Then, in 1994, the Sherman family bought the ranch, and everything the old stories warned about started happening to them, in real time, on paper, in daylight. Within months, they were living a nightmare they never asked for. Cattle mutilated with surgical precision. No blood at the scene, no tracks leading away, no explanation any veterinarian could offer. Massive humanoid figures reportedly seen stalking the tree line, moving with a gait witnesses described as unnatural, almost mechanical. Strange lights that didn't behave like aircraft, weather balloons, or anything conventional. Lights that split apart mid-air, changed color, and hovered without sound. Objects that seemed to disappear and reappear in places they hadn't been seconds earlier. A dog that vanished in an instant, in full view of witnesses, as if the air itself had opened and closed around it. Terry Sherman, the family patriarch, later described standing in his own field and watching a massive, wolf-like creature stare back at him. A creature that, according to his account, took multiple point-blank rifle rounds without so much as flinching, before simply walking away unharmed. The Shermans didn't last long. They sold the property in 1996, worn down by something they still, to this day, struggle to put into words. In interviews since, Terry Sherman has said plainly that no one should have to live through what his family experienced on that land. But here's where it gets interesting, because the story didn't end when the Shermans left. If anything, that's when it truly began. In 1996, the ranch was purchased by aerospace industrialist Robert Bigelow, a man with deep ties to government contracting and a long-standing personal fascination with the unexplained. Bigelow didn't buy the land to build a house. He built a research operation, scientists, engineers, military-grade sensors, all quietly installed across a property most people had never even heard of. His organization, the National Institute for Discovery Science, spent years documenting activity on the ranch under strict confidentiality, and very little of what they recorded ever became public. For years, almost nothing leaked out. What little did suggested the government itself had taken an interest. Through a low-profile Pentagon initiative known as the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, active from roughly 2007 to 2012. Its job, on paper, was to investigate unidentified aerial phenomena reported near military installations and sensitive sites. Off the record, insiders have suggested Skinwalker Ranch was one of the program's primary and most classified points of interest, with portions of its budget quietly funneled toward monitoring exactly this stretch of Utah desert. Do you think the government already knows more than they're telling us? Because the paper trail, heavily redacted as it is, suggests they've known about this ranch for a very long time. By 2016, the property changed hands again. This time to the Brandon Fugal-led Adamantium Real Estate Group, who opened select portions of the investigation to television cameras for the first time. And with those cameras came a wave of new footage, sensor data, and, most importantly, a discovery buried far beneath the surface that nobody expected. Here's what's been confirmed, not through speculation, but through instrumentation deployed directly on site. Deep Earth sensors and ground-penetrating radar deployed across the ranch have picked up something researchers can't fully explain. A series of underground cavities and structured anomalies running beneath the property in patterns that don't look naturally formed. Not caves, not lava tubes. Something with geometry, repeating shapes, consistent depth, and orientations that echo one another across different sections of the ranch, almost as if they were laid out according to a plan rather than shaped by millions of years of erosion and pressure. Drilling operations, conducted under controlled scientific conditions, have pulled up material samples from these depths, and preliminary analysis has pointed to isotopic and mineral signatures that don't neatly match the surrounding geology. Some samples reportedly show composition inconsistent with the rock layers immediately above and below them, as if material had been introduced or altered rather than formed in place over geological time. Meanwhile, above ground, researchers have logged recurring bursts of electromagnetic activity, sudden and severe magnetic field disruptions strong enough to interfere with handheld equipment, and, on more than one occasion, physical objects that instrumentation recorded moving in ways inconsistent with any known aircraft or natural phenomenon. Some of these objects have been tracked accelerating at rates that would tear apart any conventional vehicle, changing direction instantaneously, without any visible means of propulsion. Then, there's the mesa, a flat-topped landform on the property that locals and researchers alike have nicknamed home base for decades, due to the sheer volume of unexplained light activity reported directly above and around it. Recent survey work has suggested the mesa may sit almost directly above the deepest of the underground anomalies detected so far, as if whatever is happening below ground and whatever is happening in the sky are not two separate mysteries. They might be the same one. A single system, operating on two levels at once, one hidden beneath the earth, one playing out above it in full view of anyone watching the sky. Have you ever experienced something you couldn't explain? Something that made you question what you thought you knew about the world? Tell me about it. I read every comment. So, what are we actually looking at? Let's walk through the leading explanations, one at a time, because each one carries very different implications for what this discovery actually means. Theory 1. A natural, if extremely rare, geological phenomenon. Piezoelectric quartz deposits, or unusual concentrations of magnetite and other minerals, are capable of generating electromagnetic effects, localized magnetic disturbances, and even light distortions under the right conditions. Some researchers have pointed to similar, though far less intense, effects documented in other tectonically unusual regions around the world, from parts of Norway to sections of the American Southwest. It's possible the ranch simply sits atop a uniquely intense version of something we already understand scientifically. Just not fully. And not at this scale. Theory 2 is exactly what decades of witnesses have suspected all along, a genuine portal, doorway, or point of interdimensional contact, where whatever is beneath the ranch isn't geological at all. It's engineered, built, deliberately placed, and whoever or whatever built it hasn't left. Under this theory, the structured anomalies detected by ground radar aren't natural cavities at all, but the remnants, or the still functioning components, of something constructed long before recorded history. Theory 3, and perhaps the most unsettling of all, this has always been a monitoring site, not for us to study it, but for something to study us. A fixed point where advanced non-human intelligence, whether extraterrestrial, interdimensional, or something we don't yet have a name for, has been observing human activity for longer than recorded history stretches back. Under this theory, every strange light, every vanished animal, every humanoid figure at the tree line isn't random chaos, it's surveillance, and the underground structures aren't ruins. They're infrastructure, still active, still running, just as they were centuries ago. What kind of mysteries do you enjoy most? The kind grounded in science, or the kind that break science entirely? Because Skinwalker Ranch might be the rare case where both apply at once, and neither one fully explains what's been recorded there. None of these theories has been proven, but for the first time, researchers on site are saying, on record, that the underground data and the above-ground phenomena appear connected in a way they didn't expect, and that the next round of findings could be the most significant in the ranch's documented history. Scientists involved in the ongoing survey have described the correlation between subsurface anomalies and surface-level sightings as too consistent to dismiss as coincidence, though they stop short of offering a definitive explanation. There's another layer to this story that rarely gets the attention it deserves. The sheer number of independent witnesses whose accounts line up despite having no contact with one another. Neighboring ranchers, decades apart, describe near-identical experiences. Cattle found in perfect circles of flattened grass. Engines mysteriously cutting out on nearby roads at the same recorded times as reported light activity. And a persistent, unexplained, low-frequency hum that some residents say they can still feel in their chests on certain nights, even miles from the property line. Local law enforcement records from Uinta County, going back decades, include multiple filed reports of unidentified lights and unexplained cattle deaths in the immediate vicinity of the ranch. Reports filed not by tourists or paranormal enthusiasts, but by working ranchers and law enforcement officers who had no reason to fabricate them, and, in several cases, expressed visible reluctance to file the reports at all. Then there's the matter of the trees. Multiple survey teams have documented sections of forest on the property, where trees show signs of extreme, localized heat damage, scorched from the inside, with no corresponding surface burn pattern, no fire debris, and no accelerant residue detected in soil testing. It's the kind of damage you'd expect from an intense, controlled energy source, not a wildfire. To date, no one investigating the ranch has produced a conventional explanation for it. And perhaps most striking of all, multiple independent research teams, operating with different funding sources and different leadership, working years apart from one another, have each independently flagged the same general coordinates on the ranch as sites of unusually concentrated activity. Different scientists, different equipment, different eras of investigation. The same location, again and again, pointing back to whatever lies beneath that mesa. Second, and imagine it. You're standing on that mesa at dusk. The wind's died down, the sky is clear, and then a light appears where no light should be. It doesn't blink, it doesn't move like a plane, it just watches. You feel, more than you can explain, that whatever is up there is aware of you the same way you're aware of it. Would you run? Would you stay? Would you actually want to know what it was? Even if the answer changed everything you believed about our place in the universe. About how alone or not alone we really are. That's the question everyone who has ever set foot on that ranch has had to sit with. The Sherman sat with it and eventually walked away. Bigelow's team sat with it for years behind closed doors. And it's the same question researchers are sitting with right now, staring at data they can't yet explain, wondering whether the next drill core will finally give them an answer, or simply raise a dozen new questions. Here's what we know for certain. Something is beneath Skinwalker Ranch. It's structured, it's old, and it appears connected to decades of phenomena that science still can't fully account for, phenomena that have been witnessed by ranchers, documented by scientists, and quietly investigated by the United States government. Here's what we don't know: what it is, who, or what put it there, and why of all places on Earth it chose this quiet stretch of Utah desert to remain hidden for so long, only to start revealing itself now, piece by piece, to the people patient enough to keep looking. Researchers are still down there right now, drilling, scanning, recording every fluctuation and every anomaly the ranch produces. Somewhere in that data may be the answer that finally closes the file on Skinwalker Ranch, decades after the first strange story was ever told about this land. Or, it may only open the door to a much bigger question, one that doesn't just concern a fenced-off property in Utah, but concerns all of us. And what else might be quietly watching, waiting, just beneath the surface of the world we think we understand? If the truth about Skinwalker Ranch came out tomorrow, are you sure you'd actually want to know?